I'm Tenitra Batiste, and maybe a little Christmas miracle is on the way.
I'm Freeman, and the Falcons are really going to hire Matt Ryan to do what exactly?
I'm Jarvis Davis. Sometimes I don't like it when I'm right.
ATL! ATL!
Rise up, A-Town. It's the Falcons Squad. Everything Atlanta Falcons every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the ATL. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Straight from the ATL, the Falcons Squad Show starts now.
Welcome to the Falcons Squad Show, your home for the best Atlanta Falcons football talk. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me, our Locked On Falcons host, Aaron Freeman, and Locked On analyst, Jarvis Davis. Falcons senior reporter, Tori McElhaney, is getting ready to do what Jarvis is also getting ready to do, which is head down to Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the big showdown between the Atlanta Falcons and the Los Angeles Rams tonight. So she'll be back with us next week. The Squad Show is part of the Locked On Podcast Network now, the number one sports podcast network. So how does this offense keep up with that one? We'll discuss and we'll debate how the Falcons can get help with that from old reliable. Also, can special teams for once just be special? We'll discuss. But first, let's talk about an intriguing move that might help bring back the glory days. Free, you kind of touched on it. So let's talk about it. According to multiple reports, Arthur Blank has been in talks with Matt Ryan for a front office role with the Falcons, and that Ryan is seriously considering the move. Blank has, quote, taken note of organizations, according to one of those reports, like the 49ers, that have incorporated former NFL players into their culture building efforts. And we have seen it work for the 49ers, working them right into potentially being the team and the city and the franchise that you have to go through if you're in the NFC en route to a Super Bowl, right? So there's some precedent set there for that kind of thing working. But what do you think about the possibility, first of all, of Matt Ryan returning to the Falcons as an executive?
Well, I like the idea that Matt Ryan has something to do with the Atlanta Falcons, right?
Yeah.
I have positive associations of Matt Ryan having something to do with the Atlanta Falcons, particularly playing on the football field. I'm a little skeptical of like what exactly is Matt Ryan bringing to the table outside of playing quarterback. Like if I want Matt Ryan to identify the weak side safety rotation, like, oh, he'll do that with the best of them. But what is he going to do in the Falcons front office? Is he going to evaluate the quarterbacks? Is he going to interview head coaches or general managers and all that sort of stuff? So that's where I'm, and I mentioned this on Locked On Falcons yesterday, where it's just like if it wasn't Matt Ryan and we took somebody else who is a former player that works in broadcasting, and we replaced Matt Ryan with that person, Jonathan Vilma, Tony Romo, I don't think people would be excited about this. But because it's Matt Ryan, we're like, oh yeah, this is great. This is great news. Basically, the point I'm trying to make is like, the Falcons going to hire somebody who's not really qualified to do whatever. Again, we don't know what they're going to do. Right. I don't know what it is, so I can't jump to conclusions. But it's like, is he going to make football decisions, or is he just going to hang out in the building and just be kind of a culture setter, I guess you could say. I don't know, T. So I'm intrigued, but at the same time, I'm just like, this feels like the Falcons just being like, well, no one likes anybody that works for the team right now or runs the team. So let's hire somebody who everybody likes, or at least most people like. And like, that'll be good. Right. And it's like, okay, but like, who's going to play quarterback? Who's going to be your head coach? Who's going to be your general manager? Who's going to cover, like, it doesn't make me enthusiastic about the on-field stuff for the Falcons in the future, but at least from a PR standpoint, hey, it looks great.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those where, Jarvis, I know for my mind goes in a couple different directions. One is when Steve Kerr was put into, I think it was a GM role with the Phoenix Suns, and maybe it was a little, too much too soon, if you will, and maybe that front office space didn't exactly work out well for Steve Kerr because it was like a boom. You kind of just jump in to it. Although it was 3 years that he was actually pretty successful in the position. So you've got that one as an example. And then my other goes to Lynch with the 49ers, John Lynch, because that is one of the references for the reports, if you will. And we've seen what Lynch has been able to do with this 49ers organization, in addition to, of course, like Free said, however, having a better staff on the sidelines, if you will, to be able to partner with that front office. Now, hey, we're not, and I'm not suggesting, by the way, Jarvis, that I even think that Arthur Blank is thinking of Matt Ryan as a GM per se, but he is not. He's far more than the average football mind, if you will. So I can definitely see him being a little bit of what Free said, which is maybe more PR and goodwill, if you will, to kind of tamper down a fan base. But Jarvis, intriguing that Matt Ryan would be your guy, because I would consider him to be an elite processor.
You know what, T? If I'm Matt, and I'm not, we know that. You know what I'm saying? You know, we just look totally different. We come from two totally different worlds. You know what I mean? Like, you know, come from the west side of Atlanta. You know, it's different things over there, you know. But bringing it to, like, the forefront, just being a man and having a family and understanding how important it is to spend time with family. My first thing that came to mind when I saw this report, and Matt, and the part of the report said that Matt was interested.
Yeah.
Why are you interested? This ain't what you want. Like, because you understand that, you know, just as much time that you put in to be borderline Hall of Fame, best quarterback they ever put on the Falcons jersey, bro, you're going to have to put as much time, if not more. No, go be a great broadcaster, man. I love watching Matt talk ball.
Same.
I love it. I love it. I think he's going to be a rock star. And there's the networks are going to have to line up to give him a check if he wants to start calling games. But I love him in studio.
Yes.
With me. So my first question is, why are you interested in this? Why do you want to start losing your hair? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, bro, you still got a nice, you know, wig, you know what I'm saying? Still straight. You know, man, you know, Matt, you looking clean on TV and stuff. I'm like, dog, I don't understand why he would be interested in doing this. I don't get it. I don't understand.
So Jarvis,
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Because you put that out there, then I'm going to throw that back at Free and you.
Okay.
What if part of the intrigue and part of the interest is you feel like there's that one missing piece? You feel like you weren't able to bring it home for this franchise. And in getting back into a consultative role, albeit you wouldn't be the QB, the MVP on the field doing it, but what if there's an intrigue or an interest because you could be a part of a group that reset the table and finally brought a ring to this city? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine, you know, the itch coming back to Matt Ryan, you know, talking to Michael Penix this offseason and whatnot. So maybe that's part of it. It's like, oh, like I want to be more involved with the Atlanta Falcons moving forward or something like that. But it's like, as Jarvis said, it's like, man, you know, this is the Atlanta Falcons, man. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know this. You
know the inner workings of this organization.
Yes, he's very much aware of the amount of work it takes to get this team, you know, to success, right? On the football field, right? And it's like in the front office, like, oh, Matt, like this is, I mean, I get it, you know, challenges, all this stuff, you know, you've conquered the broadcast, you played on the football field, yeah. What's that next challenge going to be? I get it, but at the same time, man, like, do you really want to take on this? As Jarvis said, like this feels like, you know, an impossible challenge, you know. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think this is, and even to add to what Free's saying, like this is going to be hard, man. And I know there, you know, been other cases, examples of this working, right? John Elway did it, right? You know, and then go down to recently in Jacksonville, Tony Baselli was named the vice president of football operations. And I didn't think that me bringing this idea to the forefront, we talked about this on Locked On Falcons, how I can fix the Falcons. I said, man, bring it a fresh set of eyes.
Yes.
I
think we've all said,
bring it a fresh set of eyes and have them come in and assess the situation, because firing everybody and starting over, I didn't necessarily think that was the best solution right now, given how they are from a draft capital and salary cap standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't think it was going to be Matt Ryan, though. Now Matt Ryan is sharp.
Yes.
Do I think he has the capability of doing his job? Yeah, I think so. Because just how the way he simplifies things when he's talking about the game, you can have that same mindset when it comes to team building, or roster building, coaching. Like all that stuff might make it simple, man. This stuff is not hard, dog. Like if you have the right mindset and how you approach the game overall, you can apply it to every facet of it, right? So for me, I think this is something that we've seen before, but I just feel that if he does this, which it seems like it's probably going to happen, nothing's imminent, right? But I think what you said, T, I think that's a part of it. He probably wouldn't admit to that. I don't think Matt would ever answer the question like, yeah, man, I came back because, hey, man, I need a Super Bowl. I need my name on something, and I need to be a part of this. But I think deep down that might be the main reason why. That might be the answer to my question for sure.
Yeah, but I also think both Aaron and you, Jarvis, bring up valid points about the fact that it is taxing. Like one thing about that analyst work, and my mind goes to Bill Cowher, for example, back in the day, or even a Tony Dungy more recently, like, them being asked over and over again if they would return to the sidelines. No, like that analyst work, although it does have a level of intensity, whether you are in the studio or whether you're in the broadcast booth, it is nothing compared to the long hours that those guys had spent over decades sacrificing that time with their families in order to coach at the highest levels, right? So, yeah, I mean, you guys make a great point, too, like some serious risk reward there, because, again, you're risking all of that time that you're now getting back with the twins, with your wife, with life in general, for something that is going to be a big build, because this is a franchise that for the last 6 or so decades has not been able to solve the mystery. They've not been able to get over the hump. They've not been able to complete the job. So in order to get them over that hump, like the level of work and attention to detail, even by what I consider to be a far higher than average football mind, if you will, is still maybe, it's a tall order. It's a tall order. But here's an interesting thing as well, because, again, I think some of that is about the possibility of Matt Ryan returning, and we don't quite know in what capacity. We just keep hearing the words front office. But let's face it, they would be creating a position, so to speak, because, Aaron, there's an opening, at least not as of today. We are watching Twitter, but at least as of today, there's no organization opening in the front office for these Atlanta Falcons. But we also believe, if not borderline know, that Terry Fontenot's job status remains in question. It is hanging in the balance these next couple of weeks. So does the possibility of Matt Ryan joining the front office indicate anything about the direction Arthur Blank might be looking to take with Fontenot? Again, not saying Matt Ryan would be the GM, but I'm just saying, does the possibility of Matt coming into the front office give you an indication of where Arthur Blank's mind is going, or is this more of just looking to kind of add that consultant type position to help right the ship?
The look on Aaron's face.
Well, I'm just sitting here thinking, like,
you can tell his mind is
the guy who traded Matt Ryan away from Atlanta is sticking around with Matt Ryan consulting, like, hey, that guy, he got rid of me for a 3rd round pick. I didn't like that. Get rid of him. So I feel like Terry, this is not a good look for Terry if Matt has a significant role in terms of influencing the direction of the team. Raheem, he's probably okay, relatively speaking, right? Yeah. Just because Matt and Raheem have a relationship, all that sort of stuff. It's like he was coaching up Mohamed Sanu and Julio Jones when Matt Ryan was an MVP and all that stuff. It's like, hey, Raheem's good in my book in Matt Ryan's eyes, but Terry, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, Aaron. That's why I was thinking the same, like Jarvis. Not to say Matt Ryan is being looked at as the GM candidate. However, sometimes because we don't get a lot of definitive information from the Falcons organization, we find ourselves trying to read the tea leaves. So this might be a situation where are we reading tea leaves like, wait a minute, Matt Ryan entering the building? Does that equate to Terry Fontenot exiting the building?
Yeah, I mean, not yes to the answer to the question, but I think when you go back to the report, it says significant front office role.
Yes.
So I go back to the example I gave earlier with Tony Baselli. Tony Baselli is a former player, beloved in the organization.
Yes.
They hired James Gladstone. He was 37 years old, one of the younger GMs, and they were able to figure it out. Maybe Arthur is looking at that situation and saying, that'll be interesting. And I'm with you, Free. I don't know how Terry gonna stick around if they got an answer to Matt, if Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot have to answer to Matt Ryan, that's gonna be weird. I'm just saying. That's gonna be a little weird. It's gonna be a little weird.
And, right. Yeah. And I think you made an excellent point about, kind of that relationship and how James Gladstone and Tony Baselli were kind of able to work that thing out. Mm-hmm. But I think Free makes and it's it's human to think that way. Like I would think the same. Like, well, James Gladstone didn't get rid of Tony Baselli. Mm-hmm. Just saying. So, and not to say people can't reconcile those situations. I mean, that's not to say that if Arthur Blank decides he wants to retain Terry Fontenot, that Terry Fontenot and Matt Ryan can't have a mature come to Jesus conversation, because ultimately we both want the same thing. We both want this team to finally be the final team standing in February. So it's not to say that can't happen. I find it very interesting, especially because, Jarvis, I'll go back to you pointing out what we mentioned, which is significant role. Yeah. And Matt Ryan's not coming back.
It's not a consultant to me. Consultants don't have significant roles. Right? Yeah. They're more behind the scenes. Significant front office role means something. Yeah.
And I think too, if you want him to walk away from his analyst work, which to me, it feels like he enjoys it. It seems like he's having a great time.
He's good at it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's rising up the ranks into like a broadcast and, getting a significant amount of time when he's in the studio. I guess my thing is, if you want him to walk away from that, you got to make it worth his while. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one develops.
Look, Arthur Blank ain't never had a problem cutting a check to Matt. Let's just say that. He never had a problem cutting that check to Matt, so I don't think that'll be an issue.
Indeed. So listen, there's a football game going on tonight. We got to talk about that, but there is one more question I want to ask these guys, because I want to pick their brains about the front office, and we'll talk about that when we take it all under further review. This episode of our Falcons Squad Show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge. But with Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never slows down, and Prize Picks lets you stay in control. Prize Picks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on player projections. No drafts, no waiting, just pick more or less and play your way. Getting started on Prize Picks is quick and simple. The app is super easy to navigate, and it's made watching games more engaging, especially when following individual player performances. And I love the flexibility because you have options like Flex Play, where you can still get paid even if one pick misses. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And remember, the new early payouts feature is a game changer. If a player starts hot, you can cash out before the game ends. So head over to Prize Picks. It's good to be right. So, Jarvis, one more thing that kind of came out recently in terms of the front office and what might be going on with the Falcons as they look for answers on how to reset is that Arthur Blank hired a consulting firm. Now, that, according to Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer, and that firm was to offer a quote-unquote health checkup of football operations. So it seems like what we're seeing, interestingly enough, Jarvis, we're hearing more about front office possibilities than we are sideline possibilities. If you see a little trend here in what we've been hearing these last several days, I think that's interesting. But how do you think that plays into Blank's approach to what he decides to do with not just the front office staff, but maybe informing us of what he's thinking about with the coaching staff as well?
Yeah, if Matt comes into, we're just going to say significant front office role because that's the report.
Yes.
If Matt gets a significant front office role, I don't think you're going scorched and hot and firing everybody.
Yeah.
Because I believe that that's exactly what Arthur Blank don't want to do. He doesn't want to do that. So I feel if you bring Matt in, this is going to be, hey, look at my right hand, but it's nothing's going to change too much on my left hand. Like my left hand is broken, but I'm not going to do what I need to do to fully fix that. So I'm gonna have you look at this right hand and say, hey, I'm bringing in Matt. He's going to be helping out. He's going to figure it out. He's a smart guy, knows everything about the organization. Everybody going to be looking over there. Oh, this is great. Like Free said, pre-Rs, all that stuff. But on his left hand, oh, yeah, we're going to fire Marquise Williams and move on. Because the more I think about what Zac Robinson, I feel it's just something in my gut that makes me feel like he's not going to get let go. And I think Matt is kind of a product. Yeah, it's just me. And I don't even know if I want him to be let go. Like initially, yeah, I was like, man, this man got to go. But as the further the season goes along, I'm starting to see some things that I actually like. It's just a matter of him consistently doing those things. I feel like they probably won't figure out a way to keep him too. But yeah, I think that this consulting firm piece, like Arthur could have just came to your boy and, I would have gave this suggestion. You know what I'm saying? I know my fees wouldn't have been as much as what he paid for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I'm trying to fix my bathroom, dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? Give me about 30 grand. You know what I'm saying? We would have been out the door, baby. You know what I mean? Like, I would have gave you that. I wouldn't have suggested Matt, but, I would have definitely had a similar suggestion. You know what I mean? So, I'll let your boy next time, Arthur. You know what I mean? I know you listen because I know you listen to Locked on Falcons. That's for sure. Yeah, there you go. Sorry, I had to go on that tangent, y'all. Forgive me. You know what I'm saying?
It started well.
Wait. So what was it then? So what did it end up in? What did it end up in?
I don't even know. I'm watching the train just fall all the way out the tracks. Kind of like when you're going around the mountain in Tennessee and you're just afraid to fall off the cliff. Yeah, right there. But Aaron.
So that started off well.
It started off very well. But Aaron, you will be our voice of reason. You will get this train back on the track and you will tell us about all of these front office health checkup of football operations type communiques, these reports that we keep seeing. Notice we haven't really heard much in the way of what's going to happen with the folks on the sidelines. It's been a lot of conjecture about what's going to happen in that front office. And that's why I find that very interesting in terms of whether or not that indicates to you at all what Arthur Blank might be thinking, not just for what he's going to do in the front office, but what he's going to do with the coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, you could take that one of two ways, T. You could take it either, the deed is done. And we already know that they're moving on from the coaches like that.
That's true, too.
The hay is in the barn, so to speak, when it comes to that. Or, as you mentioned, maybe that means that they're relatively safe. You can go either way depending on your perspective, right? I know most of the people listening to this show, based off of the comments in the chat, or like, yo, Raheem's got to go. Like that's where you start this conversation. But I think when we talked about this going into the season, where it was like, who was on the hotter seat? It was Terry Fontenot or Raheem Morris.
Yeah.
And the question was like, could Terry Fontenot survive another a fifth losing season? And it feels like the answer should be no, but you never really know. And we've talked before about, does Raheem deserve a third year, right? Given the circumstances, where you can sit here and say, well, the main reason that the first 2 years didn't go the way it went is because quarterbacks got injured. Now, again, whether you buy that or, you feel like that's a stretch, your mileage may vary, but like that may be something that is in the mindset of Arthur Blank, where he just looks at it and is like, okay, well, let's run it back and let's see if they can figure this thing out with some coaching changes as Jarvis laid out in year 3. So it's definitely up in the air when it comes to whether or not, all this reporting about the front office changes, how does that impact the coaching staff? But it very much feels clear that there will be significant changes within the Falcons organization. It's just going to be a question of, is it going to be a complete teardown, so to speak, where everybody must go and we're going to have completely new faces in the front office as well as on the sideline? Or is it just going to be picking and choosing, and they wait a year to kind of see where they are, as Jarvis has suggested many times. So we're still in flux at this point in time, but all we know is like changes will be happening. It's just going to be how much.
Yeah, we definitely do. Well, Jarvis, you kind of like what you've seen, it sounds like, in Zac Robinson and what he's been able to strategize these last couple of weeks is back into the season. And hey, the last couple of weeks, Falcons scored 29 points. They scored 26 points in those 2 wins. But they're taking on the Los Angeles Rams, a team that is a very high-powered offense. They average 30.5 points per game, a team that's very, very frustrated with itself because it had an opportunity last week to be able to put itself in the driver's seat in the NFC and didn't do that. So they still have a lot to play for this week, do the Los Angeles Rams. But on the same token, we know that the defense can do its part and will do its part for the Falcons to focus on the Rams offense. What's the biggest key that Zac Robinson and company have to focus on offensively in order to even be able to produce, especially in the red zone tonight?
I think Zac Robinson has the opportunity to really put a stamp on, hey, guys, please bring me back for at least one more year. How about this for a scenario? After the game, later on this evening, after it's over, we're having a conversation about, man, Zac was able to get Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and Drake London involved in his offense. I love how he distributed the rock evenly between those guys, or he was able to dial up plays in particular moments that he saw fit. He was able to take advantage of a coverage the Rams were in because he knew that they were doubling Drake in the red, or doubling Kyle or bracketing coverage on Kyle in the red zone. And for some strange reason, they left Drake in a one-on-one situation on the backside. So that's if we're able to see that, I feel like that would make a good case for him to say, hey, man, I can do this. And I'm still, figuring things out, even though people don't want to hear that. I get it. I understand that aspect of it. But if you got Drake last week, who we know wasn't healthy. He did not look like himself last week. You had the 2-up game this week. Now you should be in a better situation to be able to perform. Let's see this offense fully functional. This Terry Fontenot, I love skill guys and all the sexy toys and all that stuff. Let's see if this offense can put up 30. Can they put up 30 tonight, against the Los Angeles Rams? And I feel like that will make a good case for Zac to say, hey, man, I deserve to be back because this is what you gave me and everybody's fully healthy. And I'm doing it with I'm working with a third string right tackle. And, hey, this is what it is. So I think that'll be a scenario where I feel like Zac can make a good case for coming back.
Yeah, Aaron, I don't know if there's any better case than for you to say, hey, I'm from the Sean McVay coaching tree, and I am able to, as the student, one up the teacher on the biggest stage. I mean, that would be ultimately, I don't know if there's a better case that you could make for being able to return next year, but specifically, how does Zac Robinson get that done?
Yeah, it's piggybacking off of what Jarvis says. You got to get, that three-headed monster going, and maybe, just maybe we get that fourth monster going and Darnell Mooney finally at some point this season. But hey,
if he does that, if he does that, get that man the job.
Yeah,
you get all four.
I feel like I'm asking for
that's
way
miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah, that's
a miracle level request there.
But you look at this game and you don't want to get in a shootout with the Rams, right?
True. If you can help it.
Matt Stafford's out there and throwing no-look passes and all that stuff. Puka Nacua is out here coming off 225 yards against the best defense in the NFL. We like what the Falcons defense is, but they're not the best defense in the NFL. So if he putting 225 on the Seahawks, what is he going to do to the Falcons? And then you got Sean McVay, arguably the best play caller in the NFL. So if he needs to put, drives together to go win the game, it all favors the Rams, basically, is what I'm saying. And if Zac can make it look like, hey, this is a even matchup, like, oh, we do want to get in a shootout. Kirk Cousins, finding the fountain of youth, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, all these guys getting featured. Dare I say Darnell Mooney. And it looks like this is an even footing. Then I think that's what you want to see from the Falcons offense tonight. Will we see that? They got to block that Rams front. And, I like where the Falcons pass rush is, obviously, but this is a bad matchup for this Falcons offensive line. Jared Verse, all he does is bull rush. What's Jake Matthews' biggest weakness? Bull rush. Elijah Wilkinson, third string, right tackle, going up against Byron Young out here, Kobe Turner, and maybe Braden Fisk is beat up or whatever. That's the only reprieve you get. They only have 3.5 out of their 4. Okay. It's going to be a challenge for Zac Robinson to be able to figure it out, given all the challenges that he's going to be dealing with in this, not only for McVay, trying to outdo McVay, but also trying to keep that pass rush at bay. If he can do that, then, we can have a very different conversation about Zac Robinson and whether or not he's deserving of keeping his job, in that postcast.
Yeah. And maybe the toughest part of it all is with a mind like Sean McVay's, you just don't want it to have 7 and 8 days to just kind of figure it out. And with a team that walked away as angry as the Rams were, you just hate that they bring all that anger to Atlanta. But hey, you got to be ready for it because it's coming. Speaking of getting ready, how can the Falcons get help from Old Reliable, who stays ready? We'll unpack that next up. This episode of our Falcon Squad Show is brought to you by Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. And Gusto's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits save hours every week. And knowing you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you real peace of mind. So try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnfl and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right. 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnfl. One more time. That's gusto.com/lockedonnfl. Thank you for making the Falcon Squad Show your first listen of the day, everydayers. And of course, we always appreciate you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And Aaron, I know that this show has had an appreciation for what the Falcons defense has been able to do. It held its own in the win against the Cardinals last Sunday, but really it's been the most consistent phase for this team this season. But hey, they've got a tall order. You guys started alluding to it just a few moments ago. So let's get into it. What does Jeff Ulbrich's unit have to do to ensure that they'll have their maybe best game of the season tonight?
Well, it piggybacks on what I was just talking about, where it's like you need to walk away from this game feeling like, well, that Rams pass rush is pretty good, but this Falcons pass rush looking even better, right? Because if you give Matt Stafford time of day, again, the no-look passes and the Puka Nacua is like, it's too easy for Sean McVay. And we've seen this Jeff Ulbrich defense have some success against, the McVay Shanahan disciples. We've also seen them struggle. Think back to that Miami game and that Seahawks game. They were able to keep it close for a half, and then all of a sudden, things sort of fell apart in the second half. And so you need to be able to put together 4 good quarters of defensive play for this football team if you want to see that. And I think, as we've been discussing all season, it's really going to start up front. You're also going to need AJ Terrell to have a bounce back game. He's had a great season last couple of weeks going up against Jackson Smith and Jigba, and the Bucs have not been as great. So he's going to have his hands full with Puka Nacua, as well as so many others, because the Rams are going to move him all around formation. He's that sort of chess piece for them. And so it's not going to just be on AJ Terrell to shut him down. And so it's really going to be all hands on deck, I think, to get this defense going. But I do think it starts up front, and you're going to need James Pierce and Brandon Dolis and all those guys to come through for you in a major way.
Yeah, for you, Jarvis, when you look at this defense, what is this defense going to have to do tonight in order to give this Falcons team a chance to win?
They're going to have to affect Matt Stafford. They can't have him out here going crazy. And, a part of that is what Free laid out with Puka Nacua. And they got this man lining up in the backfield and going through the line of scrimmage to go out for a route and potentially being matched up on Caden Ellis. And I'm scared. I don't want to see him matched up with Caden Ellis. Divine Diablo, even though it'll still be a mismatch, that's more of my preference, from a size standpoint and length. But that's how you have to think when you're going up against a Sean McVay coached offense, because the man finds matchups. That's the basis of his offense. He wants to find the matchup. Who can I have an advantage on? Here's my best player. I want to put him in a situation where I know he's going to win. And so when you think about it from that aspect, this is probably, I would say, Jeff Ulbrich's biggest test this year, because this guy, I know Kyle Shanahan, yeah, that's one thing, right? Been on the same coach staff as they, got it. So they kind of, you understand, and you have a little bit better understanding of it, but Sean McVay is a little different, So I feel like this is one of those, it's another one of those aspects of like, man, everybody talking about blowing everybody out, but that means Jeff going to go with them too. So I don't want Jeff to go anywhere. I am 100% fully confident in that. I don't want to see Ulbrich walk out that door, because I feel like he's done an excellent job this year. Now, they've had their downfalls, sure. That happens. But I think overall this man has done, done the job. Like, he's done the job, and he deserves to get another crack at it, to take this defense to a level where an elite level, because they've established themselves as being one of those ones to put the quarterback on the ground consistently. And I think that it starts tonight with making sure Stafford gets put on the ground pretty consistently. Not even multiple sacks. I'm talking about hurries, pressures, all of it, like a combination of all of those things, like making sure that he feels them. They need to feel him tonight.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, and I like that you mentioned that, because that's one thing we kind of don't talk about very often, because we talk about the obvious, which is kind of the special team space, if you will, and likely the parting of ways with the special teams coordinator, and 50-50. It feels like it's a 50-50 ball when it comes to the OC. But the DC, I don't think that should be anywhere near 50-50. I don't think that's a foregone. Like, to me, I agree. I think he should be that, because even when this defense has looked less than stellar, they've looked average or below, to me it's always typically been like an injury situation, like Divine Diablo going out early and being out for several games. Like, you can't like you can't overlook that. Jalen Walker being in and out in the first parts of the season, you can't overlook those things. Also, you can't overlook the fact that as great a game, and we'll talk about James Pierce Jr. in a minute, but as great of a season as James Pierce Jr. is having, and a really solid season from Jalen Walker as well, and even Brandon Dorlus, these guys are still very young in their careers. There's still a lot for them to polish and perfect in their games. So this is what they've looked like as a defense that has had injury, as a defense that is bringing rookies and rookie 2.0s up to speed. I just wanted to kind of comment, Jarvis, and kind of co-sign on that. Like, yeah, that's the one area where we shouldn't be having any conversation. And you would hope that regardless of what happens to everything else, that he stays, because you finally, I think, Aaron, maybe for the first time since maybe like Dean Pease was able to get his defense to overperform, or Ryan Nielsen was able to get his defense to overperform, that you actually have a DC and players that complement one another.
Yeah, definitely. With the investments the Falcons have made up front, Jeff Ulbrich's defensive scheme, I think, has done a really good job of, creating opportunities for those guys to get one-on-ones, and those guys have consistently been able to take advantage of those one-on-ones, and you'd hope they continue to grow and build, as you suggested, T. And the Falcons still have some work to do in the secondary, particularly at the cornerback position. But, you look at a lot of the pieces on defense and you're like, okay, there's enough here that this can be a successful defense for many, many years to come. And I think, when you look at this particular matchup, if there's one player I would point to that really could help this team, overcome this Rams team, it's going to be someone like a Brandon Dorlus in this game, where, you're dealing with the Rams offensive line having an injury at right guard. Kevin Dotson, who's their best run blocker, is out, and his replacement, can be a little bit of a liability. And I think his name is Justin Diedick or something like that. And so, we know what James Pierce can do. And he'll be facing, not the creme de la creme and these other edge rushers on the outside, given the injuries that the Rams have at the offensive tackle position. But you really need that interior to kind of step up to really wreak havoc for someone like a Matt Stafford in this game, where that interior pressure can really create problems for a quarterback like Matt Stafford, who's not going to necessarily do a ton of scrambling and rolling outside the pocket and whatnot. So if Dorlus, or any of the D tackles, but Dorlus has been obviously the one guy that has really stood out in that area. If he can have a big game, I think that will be huge, and it will just be further testament of what this defense can do.
Yeah, and we can't overlook, however, James Pierce Jr. I mean, I love the trajectory that he's been on. It's been unbelievable. It's been really, really fun to watch this season. And he has literally vaulted himself into, by his play, Aaron and Jarvis, he's vaulted himself into that legit conversation for Defensive Rookie of the Year. According to FanDuel, you're looking at odds for Carson Schlesinger, the Browns linebacker. He's still the odds-on favorite at -750, but JPJ is making some serious ground. He's now at just +650. So I was just curious to see what is maybe that one thing you guys want to see from JPJ to maybe strengthen his case and put him one step closer to becoming the first Falcon to snag the award since 1980.
Yeah, for me this is the perfect opportunity right here. Is it right in front of you? Ball out in primetime games.
Yeah.
Because that's what voters will get the opportunity to watch those games, because they aren't covering the games that they normally cover. So they're sitting there at home, they're watching those games. It's like, if he gets a strip sack tonight, get a sack and a half, strip sack, Matt Stafford, who's the MVP, leading MVP candidate for this league, he'll jump Schlesinger really quickly, because voters don't mind shucking and jiving Browns players at all, right? They don't care. They were like, oh, Carson, you'll be all right. You'll be fine. Let me go get this little shiny toy down here in Atlanta. Let me vote for him, because people will jump on the bandwagon in a heartbeat, because it'll be hard to justify voting for a guy like for the Browns. Now, he's been playing lights out, right? He just plays for the Browns. But if you got a Falcons team and they mess around and get a win because of it too, and they get a win, JPJ strip sack, somebody picks it up, take it to the house. Oh my God, they're gonna be all over Sports Center, and people gonna be looking at you like, man, if you're not voting for James Pierce Jr.
I don't know what you're doing.
I don't know what you're doing. You don't get your vote taken away. You know how it is. It's the machine, baby. All you got to do is call when the machine watching.
and Free, that we all love a good story, right? And so it's also that juxtaposition of, hey, all of that back and forth about what you did with the Rams to get JPJ and how the Rams are winning that whole deal, so on and so forth. This would be a nice way to kind of quiet those pundits as well.
Yes, one of those pundits is not on this show currently right now, but it's one of those things where Jarvis nailed it, where it's like doing this in prime time in this game, given those circumstances that you're talking about, T, where there's going to be some scrutiny on, because if James Pierce doesn't have a good game, people are like, oh man, that trade was bad, and and if he does have a good game, it's like, oh, that trade was definitely worth it, and all that stuff, and he was worth the first, the top 10 pick or whatever it winds up being. And as Jarvis said, like, if you can make a big highlight reel play, a game-changing sort of play in prime time, and potentially help the Falcons win this game, that's going to do wonders to flip the odds in James Pierce's favor. So for all the people watching and listening, go take advantage of the odds right now if you're feeling good about where James Pierce is going to be in a couple of hours, because those odds could very well be very different 24 hours from now. And so if you want to get your money in over at FanDuel, go check it out, people. But that's I think this is a golden opportunity for James Pierce to really this is kind of a statement game where it's like, yes, I am the defensive rookie of the year. Like, he'll either show it tonight, or as Jarvis said, it'll be Carson Schwessinger or somebody else winning that.
Yeah. And then the commentary continues about the trade, but you could definitely squelch all of that with a really, really impactful game from James Pierce Jr. tonight. You know what else can be squelched? All the commentary about teams. Can teams show up as special? We'll talk about that when we look ahead. Jarvis, as good as the offense could potentially play tonight, as good as the defense can potentially play tonight, there's this one phase that just has to show up bigger than they've shown up this entire season. Because if what Aaron and you have said, if what we've talked about throughout the course of the show happens, meaning that Zac Robinson is able to effectively utilize his big three, that Jeff Ulbrich is able to not just scheme a good game against Matt Stafford in the first half, but if somehow it's necessary, he can make the halftime adjustments that we've come to respect in seeing him do this year, Falcons are going to be good. If those two things happen, then special teams has got to do its part for the Falcons to be able to win. But what in the world does that need to look like for teams?
Don't embarrass us. That's it. Don't embarrass us in prime time. I don't, because here's the thing. I always joked about, there's some seriousness behind it. There's truth in humor. All right. 2 out of 3, baby. That's all you need. 60% of this thing. 2 out of 3 phases. If you win offense and defense like you laid out, T, don't embarrass us. Don't give up a 75-yard punt return to the crib. Don't. Just make the tackle. That's it. Get the best units on the field. That's it. That's all you gotta do. That's all you gotta do. Get the best units on the field, baby. Give an opportunity. You know what I'm saying. Help the offense not have to worry about getting a first down, an extra first down on the punt team. Get the kickoff return to the 40-yard line, right? Like, normally it's at 35. Get to the 40. Give me something. Make the Falcons look good by putting Jamal Agnew down. You know what I'm saying? Like, did y'all, by the way, did y'all hear how Raheem Morris was talking about Jamal Agnew?
Do share for the listeners in case, and our audience in case they missed it.
For the people who missed it, for the people who missed it, he said, because he was asked about Jamal Agnew, he's like, yeah, you know how Raheem be talking. Unfortunately, he was able to, we brought him in and he didn't, live up to our standard, and we cut him. We wanted to bring him back, but he was picked up, so we wish him well. But we want to take in some younger guys who can be better. I was like, oh, sure, okay, all right, hey man, but all that says to me is that, Marquise, bro, get them feels and thoughts out now. You know what I'm saying, bro? You know what I mean? It doesn't look good for you, but get your unit to play to at least just don't embarrass us. That's where I'm at with this special team unit right now.
And hopefully that commentary by Raheem Morris was kind of that subtle jab to special teams to say, hey, do your job, because this is what could happen. And ultimately, yes, maybe they did try to reset with Jamal Agnew, and the availability just wasn't there. But ultimately, you cut him in the first place for a reason. So we're still looking at that as the original. And they may have a little bit of an uphill battle because I know, Aaron, that both Jarvis and you have liked the play of Josh Woods. He's been a good component there for special teams for the Falcons. They just announced moments ago that he's unavailable due to a personal matter and has been designated as out on the game status report tonight. So that might make it a little bit tougher for teams, but no matter, whoever takes the field and just needs to do their job.
JD Bertrand,
Hey,
yeah.
Why did you mention his name? I was feeling so much better about my overall just being free, and you bring his name up.
Yes.
How dare you?
I wonder why I did that, Jarvis. Exactly for that reason. So yeah, it's, as you said, T, uphill fight with JD Bertrand, who team loves so much that they made him a healthy scratch the last 3 games because they were like, you can't even contribute on special teams. So, yeah, I hope it doesn't come back to bite him, so we'll see.
We shall see. Well, listen, we will end on a positive note because we have a few minutes left to share some good stories, some good news. And Jarvis, it's our first quad show because of the holiday, of course, since the Pro Bowl game selections were announced. But we do want to highlight Bijan Robinson and Chris Lindstrom, who were the 2 Falcons who were chosen. And this, of course, is Robinson's 2nd consecutive time receiving the honor, Lindstrom's 4th in a row. Let's start with Bijan. What has impressed you the most about his performance that got him the honor this year?
What hasn't impressed me? That's the question. I've just been in awe of this guy and what he brings to the field on a consistent basis. Now, he has his moments for sure, like everybody does.
Yeah.
But I just love the story of Zac Robinson told when he was talking about how Michael Petrie wanted to get Bijan out because he was tired on that 65-yard drive. That it was the Bijan drive, right? You know what I'm saying? And Zac was like, no, I got to play for him. And then Bijan went in there and scored the touchdown and made it look as easy if he was 100% and he wasn't tired. It just things like that you just look at and say, man, wow, I know I was up in arms when they drafted this cat, but man, I'm looking at Terry like, boy, I appreciate you because this is fun. He is so fun to watch, just like the other guy that used to wear that number back in the day.
What about for you, Free?
Yeah, I mean, Jarvis nailed it. As I said, a couple of months ago when, that pick was criticized from, certain people, on this side of or that side of screen, whatever side of the screen you guys are watching. Every
time we talk about this, man, we gotta leave it. We gotta do
I'm just saying,
every time.
you're gonna be punished, Jarvis, How
Yes.
dare you, Jarvis? You're going to be punished for having to watch this incredible football player for the next 7 to 10 years. Like, what a terrible crime that you have to, result in every single Sunday. You're like, well, I get to watch somebody, perform miracles by walking on water every single Sunday. And it's like, this is just the worst thing that's ever going to happen to you watching this Atlanta Falcons team. It's the one thing that we have as Falcon fans and Falcons observers and analysts and all this. It's like, well,
Bring
at
some
least we get to
joy.
watch Bijan this
Right.
Sunday. So let's go watch Bijan do incredible things. And it's always nice to have that when you're watching the Falcons, because the team ain't always doing the things that you want them to do. But hey, you got Julio, you got Bijan, you are at least entertained by those individual players. And we saw that with Bijan in front of his hometown in Arizona last week. And hopefully we'll see more of that against the Rams, because I think if you're going to win this game, we're probably going to have a conversation on like who is the best player on the field on Monday night. And, if the answer is not Puka Nacua or Matt Stafford, the MVP, the front runner, and the answer is Bijan Robinson, I think that puts the Falcons in a very favorable situation. But we have the potential to have that conversation every single Sunday with Bijan of who's the best player on the football field. And it has the potential to be Bijan. And many times this season, it has been Bijan. And that's the main reason why he's, in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. And I mean, we get to witness history. As rough of a season as it's been, Bijan Robinson is on pace to finish with more scrimmage yards in a single season than any player in Atlanta Falcons history. So it's kind of cool to be able to see that, because low key, whether we think about that and this is not Pro Bowl worthy per se, but even a Jake Matthews with his Iron Man record, where he just keeps on playing and keeps on playing and keeps on giving you solid play. I mean, those are kind of things that make you put a smile on your face, or at least put a positive spin on this season. I think you could say the same thing for Chris Lindstrom, Jarvis, because this hasn't been a completely Chris Lindstrom Pro Bowl like season. And part of that, of course, is because his running mate, Caleb McGarry, is not like right there as a 1-2 punch. So it is hard when you've got like the third stringer there with you. But yet and still, his peers and many others thought of him as one of those guys who's the best in the business. So what impressed you about what Chris was able to do this season, or has been able to do this season, even knowing all of the challenges that have been faced on this O-line?
Yeah, when you think about him playing through injury, dealing with that early on in the season,
Yes,
when
injury,
he came
right.
back and he just didn't look like himself. It feel like he didn't have his base up on his feet up under him, so to speak. Because like one thing that talking to some guys and just here's and how I evaluate and look at offensive linemen, like how much are they on the ground? Like if you got an offensive lineman that's always on the ground, falling to the ground, you might want to stay away from him. And I've seen Chris like that, this year. And I know that's not him, because I understand there's an expectation that and level of play that he has, and I expect from him, he expects from himself. And we know that he hasn't been there, but still be able to fight through that and continue to be the best offensive lineman on his team and one of the better guards in this entire league. Yeah, that means a lot. And for him to get acknowledged like this, the fourth straight time, going to the Pro Bowl or Pro Bowl games, I gotta get used to that.
Yeah.
That's still kind of weird. Sound like they're going to the Olympics or something. But anyway, I think that's one of those things where you look at and you say, yeah, we knew what you were dealing with, but man, you still one of the better. You still are one of the best option in the league, not just on this team. Yeah.
And like Jarvis said, Aaron, you think about the fact that Chris Lindstrom has been dealing with this foot injury lingering since week 9. And may have missed a practice here and there, may have been limited in practice, but hasn't missed a game. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And to still be playing at a level that is honored by your peers as still being tops in the league is impressive.
Yeah, you mentioned being honored by your peers, because he wasn't in the top 10 in fan voting. And this is like at least the second year in a row where he hasn't gotten the love from the fans, who account for 1/3 of the Pro Bowl vote. With the other 2/3 coming from coaches and players. And so 2 years in a row, at least, we have seen the coaches and players show their respect for Chris Lindstrom's game by basically honoring him as a Pro Bowler. And as you said, T, this has not been a highlight reel for Chris Lindstrom. This is arguably probably the worst season he's had, probably since his rookie season, coming into the league, where he was also dealing with injuries and missed the majority of that season. But like he's really fought through it. And as Jarvis says, it's kind of like a character building year where it's like, okay, well, I don't have my running mate Caleb McGarry. I've been dealing with this foot injury. Things haven't gone the way that we wanted to go, for the team and whatnot, but I'm still out here doing my thing. And so you got to respect Chris Lindstrom, even if he isn't necessarily playing at the elite level that we have become accustomed to seeing from him over the years. He's still playing at a high level, as you said. He's still the best offensive lineman on this team, and he's still one of the best, zone run blockers in the entire NFL. And you do get to see that on occasion, just maybe not as with the level of frequency that we have seen in the past. And so this is going to be one of those years where you get to see more. It's more a testament of the toughness of someone like a Chris Lindstrom than necessarily the skill of Chris Lindstrom. And you just kind of need, or maybe you don't need them, but you're going to get some of these years every now and then over the course of a player's career.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you guys, like we used to say all the time, and then he retired and you realized, and also he was gone, but you realized, oh, wow, Aaron, Jarvis, Tenitra, Tori, they all have a point. We told you you're going to miss Matt Ryan and you'd appreciate him when he's gone. Fans, appreciate Chris Lindstrom. I don't know if you know how important it is to have that type of offensive lineman in that position operating at the level of excellence that he's operated at this many number of years. So as much as we appreciate what we see in Bijan Robinson and even Tyler Algier, you got to appreciate the guys who block up front to make it happen. And we appreciate you guys every day for making the Falcon Squad Show your first listen of the day. Be sure to stop by Locked On Falcons with your host, Aaron, as your second listen. You can catch Jarvis as a frequent contributor for Locked On Falcons. And, of course, always check out Tori's great work at AtlantaFalcons.com. Falcon Squad Show, Locked On Falcons, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We'll see you next time.